Hello and welcome to The Extra Point. I am Kendall Gammon, and this is our first time streaming. So, folks, bear with us a little bit, but we think we've got it going well. Before I get to my guest, Dan Lundy, who I'm very excited about from Fourth Down U, I want to first welcome our sponsor, Crown Automotive, for all their help. Crown Automotive from Lawrence, Kansas, for all your Toyota or Volkswagen needs. Go there. They will take care of you. 785-843-7700 is the number, or you can simply go to crownautomotive.com. All right, let's get started. Again, excited about this one. This is a gentleman that I've just met in the last several months and gotten involved with. Fourth Down U is the business that he works with, and it has a near and dear space in my heart because it deals with special teams. So Dan Lundy, we're going to bring in and look forward to talking with him today.
How you doing, guys?
Hey, Dan, how you doing, man?
This is definitely new. I'm glad I'm your guinea pig, but I'm honored to do so. I like being thrown in the fire, so thanks for having me.
Hey, you bet. I appreciate you coming on. Well, Dan, first and foremost, give folks kind of a synopsis of what it is you do and how long you've been in the business.
I was a former kicker. I did everything in high school, but I had to pick one in college. I played at Miami Hurricanes.
The U.
The U, yeah. Actually, when the last time we won a natty, it was my time there. I was recruited by Butch Davis, but I ended my time with Larry Coker. And there is where I learned a lot about what it was to be a winner, like what it took, I should say, and the time invested and all those intangibles that we don't really think about. But unfortunately, I was hindered with an adductor tear 3 times on the kicking leg. I started right away. I was playing on kickoff specialist at my first game, and I ended up redshirting my second year because of the injury, and I never recovered. I fell in love with the side of coaching and instruction with specialists because that was the first time at Miami I got exposure to coaching. I was self-taught until about 18. And when I got some formal instruction and I got some golden nuggets, if you will, it opened my eyes to what I really should have done earlier in my career. And that's part of why I really started what I do is I wanted to make sure that I have an opportunity, or I should say give an opportunity to kids that are 15, 16, 17 that do have aspirations to kick, punt, and snap in college. The formal instruction that I didn't get until it was almost too late.
You know what? It's interesting. Oftentimes they say those who can't do teach, but in your case, you can do it. So it should be those who can't do or that can do and get injured, go ahead and teach. And you and I have been around each other, and it is really love for it. I had a chance to come down, I think in January, to one of your clinics. You had an individual one that you really like, where you just have 3 or 4 people on Saturday. Then Sunday I came to the big clinic and got to meet a few of the guys and work with them snapping wise. And you can see it right there. In fact, actually, I think the gentleman in the Fourth Down University shirt, if I remember right, did he just get a scholarship to Marshall?
It's weird you took a picture with those two. The kid on the left is Rex Robich. He is committed to Mississippi State. And yes, the kid on the right is a recent Marshall commit. So both those young men are Division I long snappers, and they're from the same small little town in Daytona Beach area. Isn't that awesome?
It really is really cool, and I've got to look at it here, but you know what? You've coached 84 All-Americans or worked with them, 55 in the NCAA, and then 29 high school. And then you've got multiple people we see right here. I believe that's Cairo Santos, who used to be a former Kansas City Chief, if I'm not mistaken. But you've got guys in the NFL. Of course, there's James Winchester manning the position that I used to man for the Kansas City Chiefs, and he's just done a phenomenal job and just is a better human being. You talked about making a difference with these guys, and that's something that's very big. Let's go into that first, which is make a difference. Whether it be in your personal life, what you do for others or what they do for you, just talk to me about that in terms of making a difference.
Well, I'm all about objectivity, as you saw. I like to identify a problem, and I think each person's problem is very specific and personal. I take a lot of pride in that, and that's like you already noted. I like the private setting or the small group setting more because I feel like I'm too spread thin when I have, let's say, 100 kids in the classroom. I don't think a professor is nearly as effective or touches people as personally as if it were like maybe a 5-person law review meeting or something. So yeah, that's why I like to make a change, you know, for the better. And I think that like what I realized was if I was really going to separate from my competition, if you will, I wanted to attack the mindset too. I wanted to attack the day-to-day, the seemingly mundane things that, you know, some people don't realize are of the utmost importance. It's what professionals do. They dot their I's, they list things in the morning, they prioritize, they adapt. I think that's a key word. I talked to Ricardo Allen last night on my podcast, and that's something that he repeated most often was to be adaptable, to realize that the plan will almost assuredly go another way, and you have to be okay with that. So,
you know, so you're talking about the football side of it with what you do, but you know, we've seen some of the guys who have made it to the NFL, but the odds say that you don't, just because that's what the odds are. But these principles that you teach and that I think I teach, we can take it from the sports side and really push it into the business side and the personal life side as well. Would you agree?
I couldn't agree more. And I think that the parents are the ones that realize that initially in the relationship. But when a kid becomes 25 and he's in a law firm or he's managing a hedge fund and he's doing the seemingly mundane things very well, especially when, you know, his other 25-year-old peers are not, they're just figuring out that, oh, dotting I's and crossing T's is essential. I'm giving these kids a head start, and I'm hoping, of course, that at least I can get them into a college experience. But I like what you said. I make it known that, you know, if I see 1,000 kids a year on a field, 2-3 of those kids will have a Sunday experience, maybe in a camp.
Right. Well, it should be noted also, and I want to make sure and give him some credit, is Mike Dunham, who works with you also, took over the snapping side of it before another gentleman just decided that he needed to step away. So you handle the kicking side, and then I think Mike handles the snapping side. I was around him. I love the fact that, you know, he's a younger guy and he really communicates with the guys well. But, you know, you mentioned the fact of the parents, and that occurs to me when I was down there, because you were kind enough to give me some time to speak to the guys after practice, maybe 15 or 20 minutes. And I did get thank yous from the guys. There's no doubt about it. Not only that day of, but then in direct messages and text after it. But I probably got equally as many from the parents as well, which was very gratifying.
Yeah, I want to thank you. I was going to introduce the show, and I just, you know, this live stuff's a little freaky, but
you're all good. We're just having a chat.
I want to thank you again for that time. I'm going to remind the audience that, you know, you came out of your way and you spent 2 full days with my program, and the kids realized very quickly, you know, you can look people up these days easily. And when they knew your resume, you know, ahead of time, so I gave them a little heads up you were coming, and just to get them motivated a little bit. And then, you know, for you to take the time after and even engage with the parents, because I think the parents are the catalyst oftentimes, especially with my demographic. I deal with, I would say the mean age is 16. If a kid's it's usually a priority by then, kicking, punting, snapping. And I found that in 19 years doing this, that when I have a good rapport and a consistent, you know, communication with the parent, it oftentimes is a support system that's needed, because I'm only seeing them a few times a month.
Right. So let's talk about this. You work with high school, you work with college, but you know, the guys that are in the NFL, they come back and see you as well, don't they?
Yes, sir. Very thankful for that. You know, it started with Caleb Sturgis. I think that was you almost have to be given one. And I was referred by a guy named Dan Mowry. He used to kick at Florida State. He's an attorney in St. Augustine, and he said, "There's a kid that is just different." Fast forward, it's Caleb Sturgis. He was arguably the best kicker in the Florida Gators history, and he made an impact in the NFL as well. When Caleb left for school, Florida, he said, "There's another kid. There's a kid behind me named Cairo Santos. He plays on my little brother's soccer team."
Oh, wow.
And he didn't play football. And I was like, "Caleb, ask him to come out." Caleb bugged him. Finally, Cairo Santos shows up on my doorstep, and I knew. I hate it sounds cliche, but if there was one time that I knew someone was different, and it was very unassuming because the kid was 5'9", probably 150 at the time.
Right.
I was not looking forward to it initially. I was like, "Oh, Caleb, come on, this kid, I hope he can hit 30 with the mass he has."
Right.
But he was special, and you know firsthand.
Yeah. No, I got to know him. I formed a relationship with him while he was here in Kansas City. So you're absolutely right.
So with those two, which were, I feel as they were a gift, you know, it was a blessing to have been given the opportunity to have them early in their careers in high school, and to earn their trust through college, and then obviously on Sundays. And I think, you know, of course, it's only 32 in the world that do it at each,
Right.
32 long snappers, etc. They talk, and yeah, it grew slowly but surely. And when they come, I just make it known that, listen, you are where you are already. If I can see that there's something excessive in nature, that's pretty much what I do with the pros. Is if I don't think it's needed, if I think it's like adding variables to a process, I try to streamline that process, and nothing more than that.
Yeah, your they're Rolls Royces already. We're just putting spinners on that, so we're taking care of it. But you know, I think it's maybe important, and maybe you can go into this a little bit. You know, during my career, I played 15 years. Year 7 or year 8, you know, my ball started getting a little wobbly, and I was confused, and I didn't know what was going on. And it took me, you know, a good part of that year to figure out what was going on. It was simply a thumb placement. And the reason I talk about this is, you know, no matter what we're doing in life, I think whether it's football or into everyday life, you have to continue to monitor things, because things can go haywire. Just because you reach a level doesn't mean you automatically stay there.
Absolutely. I think you will agree with me on this one, and I'm guilty of it because I'm a human being. We all have this thing called an ego.
Yeah.
And oftentimes when you're put on a pedestal, especially the NFL guys now, you get that blue check status, and you get in a couple other blue checks in other industries that follow you and start promoting your brand. And like the music industry, a lot of these guys will start smelling themselves. That's what I call it. And I think that is when the complacency sets in, and that's when you become stagnant, and that's when the people that are your peers that are ignoring the noise will go right by you. So I don't think very many of my guys are egocentric, and I think the NFL does a good job, especially with the specialists, because that's what I'm most familiar with, is finding the guys that are very strong-minded kids that are well-grounded, that, you know, they're even, you know, that they don't get too high, they don't get too low, because it's such a critical thing we do. If we mess up, it could be the game, and we may not get a recovery. You know,
yeah, you know, it's and I'm going to go speak to a college baseball team here later today, and I'm going to tell this story, which is, I remember when I was with the Kansas City Chiefs, I was thinking it was year 14 or 15, and I was running out to the middle of the field for a punt. And somebody clipped my heels, and they tripped me, and I fell flat on my face right at the 50-yard line. And, you know, it's bad enough that happened, but literally I heard an audible, "Oh," I mean, a gasp from 77,000 at Arrowhead. And I'm just like, I got up and I was inventing cuss words. I was going nuts. And then I was like, okay, you got to recompose yourself, and you got to go do the job. And I did, and I continued with it. Funny, the next day, Jason Belzer comes in, our free safety, but he was our up back, and he came up to me. He goes, "Hey, Kendall," he goes, "I apologize. I was the guy who clipped your heels and tripped you, but you were just so darn mad. I wasn't about to say anything." And so we had a good laugh about it. But what I'm getting at is, you know, I think that's one thing that certainly special teams has to do, because they hold so much. Such a high percentage of the game in their hands, and how it looks in terms of whether it's successful kick, a successful punt, a successful snap or not. And so being able to, you know, dismiss what just happened and get back to the present, you know, there's not a better saying than the time is now. And that was for me. Had I let the fact that I was so ticked off that somebody tripped me and I was embarrassed, messed that snap up, that would have been awful. And so just talk about that. I mean, you do talk to them about the mindset. Do you start that when you start working with a kid younger on, or how does that work?
I love your question, because it's something that, I'll be honest, I've been doing this for quite a while now, and it's a recent practice, but I look at reactions almost more than the result.
Right. Body language, right?
And that's probably a great thing I just said to the audience. But yeah, and I learned this from Cairo. You know, I'll tell you a quick story, Kendall, and this is what I use, because kids always want to know why. Why is it so important? I'll tell you why it's important. Cairo Santos went to the combine, and there was 11 specialists there. And a few days after the combine, he was 9 for 10 or 10 for 11. He missed one, and I'll tell you what happened. It was a 45 left, and he pushed it to the right. You know, just kept his hips open. barely by a foot or so. What happened next was the most important thing of the day, and it wasn't the next kick. Joe Judge, who he's now a head coach, but at the time, Joe Judge was the special teams coordinator for Bill Belichick up in New England. He talked to Cairo a few days later and said, I circled a note and circled and circled and circled this one thing, and it wasn't about anyone's kicking or punting or snapping that day. It was your reaction to your miss. I couldn't tell that you had missed that ball, and then you went and transitioned to the final ball, and it was your very best rep, in my opinion. So it stood out to me, your reaction, more than anyone else's action that day.
That's interesting. And again, I'm going over what I just said, but the time is always now. I mean, there's nothing wrong with learning from the past and looking forward to the future. But if you're not in the present, then there's a chance for things to, I think, go haywire. So you're doing your own thing. It's a little bit different. Let's be honest. We know this. I mean, so you probably have a different time schedule. You've got a beautiful family. I think it's your wife, Ariana. Then you've got two daughters that are Blake and Leighton. And I'm going to tell you right now, how those beautiful girls came from you, it goes beyond me. I see who they got it from, but that's just a beautiful family. But, this is really a thing also is there's got to be tremendous support, I would think.
Oh, man, we are blessed. You talk about gratitude a lot. I listen to your show, and I know that's the
Yeah, let's go with this. So let's, we do talk about gratitude, and that's a part that we'll cut up. So you're about to give it, but what are you grateful for? What events are you grateful for? How would you put it?
It's everyone says that kids change you, but it really is the number one thing I think of when someone asks me that is like, what are you thankful for? What are you grateful for? And my wife, of course, it's my immediate family, but like the support we have in this area, we're rare. Her parents, for the most part, live here. She's got two sets, and then my parents live here. Mm-hmm. So I think the interaction between my parents and my kids, it's unexplainable. I'm like getting a little teary eyed, but it's changed. It's changed me. Like I think I used to have an issue with putting first things first, my prioritization. And I would go off on tangents, even as an athlete, where my performance would dwindle, or it wouldn't be where it should be because of distractions. Mm-hmm. So I think because I was so imperfect, and we all are, I remember the things that I wish I could have made amends with, or could have been different, or attacked differently, So I'm off on a tangent, but my family is everything. And obviously what I do, like I feel like I'm blessed with what I call a profession,
Right.
And I don't let that go. Each day I work hard to ensure that, like, hey, if I feel so blessed to have this profession, I need to realize that everything in this life is fleeting, and I've got to earn this every day.
Yeah, I think it's very important for the appreciation of the moment and what we have. And it doesn't matter what it is in life. If you take it for granted, that's when things, I think, start to erode. There's no doubt that I've done that in my life at certain times. And I think that's just beautiful. You kind of brought it up, though, in terms of how important it was. And we're going to get away from football a little bit, but I like this, which is how important it was to see your kids with your parents. And I read an article this morning, just how very important relationships between kids and their grandparents can be. And it sounds like that you see that on a if not a daily basis, at least a weekly basis.
It's funny you say that. I mean, today, Thursday, is Grammy's day, we call it. So
that's awesome.
Grammy will pick her up from school.
Yeah.
And it's usually like a trip to the park or something, or like maybe like a scoop of ice cream. But then Grammy actually takes her to Grammy's house, mm-hmm. and she does bath time and dinner time with her.
Wow.
And then tomorrow, my wife's mother has the same thing going on. So Thursday, Friday, that's like her pre-weekend, So it's just neat. And I realized, talking to my peers that are having kids, because it seems like all my buddies are starting to have them right alongside me. And most of them are in an unfortunate situation where work took them other places, and life does that. And again, count my blessings, right? I'm grateful for the fact that we're a pretty cohesive unit here.
Right. How about as far as, I mean, it's a unique profession in terms of you've got to get new kids. And so Do you advertise much? Do they come to you? I know we ran it down there a little bit earlier, which is fourthdownu.com, and you've got the website. Couple questions. How do you get them? Is it referral? Is it the both? Once you get a kid, do they tend to stick with you for a little while? How does that work?
It's a good question. I've gotten better with the marketing of sorts, but I realized that the social media is not going anywhere. So I do have a presence on all platforms. And
right.
If I post one somewhere, I'll post it on all of them the same, because I realize that there's different target markets. Like Facebook is my family area.
Yep.
Kids love to be on Instagram, and Twitter is where I really have noticed the most value, which is establishing a rapport with these college coaches. People that are listening to the show right now, that is a way that coaches and players can interact regardless of dead periods or NCAA restrictions. If the player like me initiates contact with the coach is in fact allowed to respond. So I realized that quickly, that's my way to show coaches my value as well. So yeah, I think essentially, to answer it in short, I have kind of thrown all my eggs in one basket and said, I'm going to go off referrals. I'm going to do the very best job I can do on a daily basis. And most of my kids come through referrals. Yeah.
Let's see here. We got about 10 minutes left, and we may take a few questions if we've got them. But in general, I've got to take a look at this. But you've done night coach of the year, and then you've also done Glazier clinics. I would imagine that's twofold. Number one, you might get people pushed to you through that, but probably maybe more importantly does this help build the trust and the credibility with these coaches, where when they're looking for somebody, do they give you a call and talk to you about things?
You're exactly right. And you meant Nike Coach of the Year, Glazier, AFCA, and our coaches network, Texas High School Football Chat, you name it. Like I'm doing all of my can. And you're right. I think for the longest time I was attacking the kids and trying to show them my value. But then, like you said, kids come and go. It's a revolving door. They get older, they graduate. I realize the people that are there always are the coaches. And if I can establish trust in these guys and show them that I am, in fact, I'm not going to give you a star. I'm not going to rate your kid. I'm not going to give you any subjective opinions.
Right.
I'm going to give you some data. I'm going to give you all of those weaknesses. I'm going to say that which ones might be a hindrance for long-term, which one is in fact the best short-term option. I pride myself on, although I care about each of my kids, I'll be the first to admit if there's a kid outside of my circle that's better, because the second I don't is the second I lose your credibility, and I lose everybody else's. So it is what it is. I think that you asked earlier, my retention, I think the people that don't stick with me, the people that can't, or that are not used to the truth. And I don't say it abrasively, but the truth sometimes hurts because no one else tells you. And oftentimes, and I don't know if it's coincidental or not, but it's usually the parents too that can't handle the truth. It's the parents, the mothers and fathers that can hear the weaknesses and are eager to find a way they can be a part of the solution to the problem. Those are the kids that are the most successful, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about that, because when I was down there to work with some of the guys, I like the fact also that the parents, they don't get too close, but they get close enough so they can hear. Generally, it's dads. And it's not that they're trying to massage anything so much as they're trying to absorb it, because they know the information is being given there and no one person's going to remember everything. And so it gives them a chance to maybe, I think, help them and remind the guys when they're practicing at home. Because, the fact is, and I say this to the people that I coach, which is I can give you the tips and I can help you out with some stuff. But ultimately, it comes down to that persistence of you got to do this rep after rep after rep. They talk about that you've got unconscious incompetence where you don't even know that you're not doing it right. And then you get conscious incompetence where you're like, okay, I know what I'm trying to do now, but I'm still not doing it right. Then it goes on to conscious competence, which is, okay, I know what I'm doing it right. And I think the goal for you and the kickers, and really for us in life, I think, is getting to that unconscious competence where we do it the right way because we've done it so much that our body is going to perform that way, whether we're completely immersed in thinking about it or not.
I want to give you one of my favorite quotes I heard recently was, you listen to your body in training and you tell it to shut up in competition. You know, I think you can attest to that, right? You probably never thought about a technical thought prior to snapping in the NFL.
Right.
It was just an action that you had made just part of the way you do things, right?
Right. Yeah.
I love what you said, and it goes further than football, of course. It's habitual things, right? Like your habits, if you will, is like I talked to Ricardo, like I mentioned Ricardo again, but I just love the way that he structures his life, you know. And I don't think a lot of people do. I think a lot of people just kind of fly by the seat of their pants. I know a lot of my friends don't even keep a calendar, and I couldn't imagine. You know, I couldn't imagine.
No, absolutely. When people ask me what's going on, I go directly to that because my life kind of revolves around it in terms of knowing my schedule. Now, explain to those who aren't familiar who Ricardo is.
Sorry, I've mentioned him a couple of times. He's currently a free agent, but I coached him at Mainland. He was a special teamer for me, and he used to come back for free kicking camps and just shag balls. Like he'd be in town and be like, "Can I just come catch him?" And I'd be like, "Dude, you're a preseason All-American corner. What are you even doing here?" But he always just loved being around football, and he loved special teams because he made it at Purdue like that, and he made it with the Falcons like that. So for the last 7 years, he was with the Falcons. His final 4, he was a captain for the Falcons, and he just a great human off the field. He's really involved with the social justice movement with the NFL, and he's really involved with the NFL communal stuff. So every year we do an annual free camp here in Daytona, and it's really taken off. It's one of the largest in the country. Adidas supports it. Some nice people support it. Wilson, Wizard Sports, but I really want you a part of it next year. We do it in March each year, and I'll give you a 6 months heads up. But it's not just a special teams camp. It initially started as a free kicking camp to honor our mayor, who was a former kicking coach, and
right.
We turned it into a Ricardo Howland camp.
Very nice. Well, I think you and I've talked about this, but for those out here listening, I mean, the one reason that I got involved with the Dan was because of something he said a little bit ago, which is I'm not into the 3, 4, 5 stars and rating and everything. I mean, he's going to coach you and whatever, and that's kind of the views I espouse. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I understand that maybe it needs to be that way, but I like the fact that yours is more specific to just the coaching and if you're getting something out of it. And, again, I mean, I played in the league for 15 years. And so there's a respect that goes along with that. And with that, I've still had never affiliated with anybody. I just gave lessons myself. So, kudos to you for what you're doing. And again, and Mike is doing a great job as well. And I mean, I look forward to that next March, and it's just been a good time. Before we get out of here, is there any passing thoughts that you have on your mind?
I just want to let you know what a great job you do on your show. I listen to it regularly. I have a few podcasts saved, and you're one of them. And I'm just thankful for people like you I consider you a mentor of mine. And I'm just grateful. I work hard to not to be like you, of course, but I think I work hard to entertain people like you for validation in my teachings and my practices, because you spent 15 years at a level I never played at, but I want to create those opportunities more for this next generation, and I learn from people like you in doing so.
Well, Dan, I appreciate the kind words. And I mean, you said it almost verbatim the way I wrote it up for you. So that worked out well.
Yeah,
no, I appreciate I appreciate the kind words. So, well, hey, we're trying to keep this around the 30-minute time frame and lunch, and just appreciate you coming on. Look forward to talking with you off air on some things that we've mentioned that are coming up. And again, I want to thank Crown Automotive in Lawrence, Kansas for your Toyota, for your Volkswagen needs, 785-843-7700, or you can go to Crown Automotive. He is Dan Lundy. I am Kendall Gammon, and this has been another edition of The Extra Point.
Take care.